4.5, quadratic equations. So like I said before, guys, this is not going away. So we want to find the zeros of the function. Basically, a zero of the function is when the equation is equal to 0. We want to try to figure out where it crosses the x-axis. So if here my axis is, zeros of the function lie on the x-axis. Now in a quadratic function, we could have a quadratic like this with those zeros. We could have a quadratic like this with the same zeros. You could also have it stretched out more and have it go woo. Okay, so zeros of the function where it crosses the x-axis. When you are solving this, first thing you want to do, you might want to jot this down right here, is set it equal to 0. This one's already set equal to 0, so that's going to be easier. And then I want to factor. So I have to think about the numbers that multiply to get positive 6, that add to get negative 5. That'll be x minus 2, x minus 3. Remember, you can always check your work. So right here, this is negative 3. This is negative 2 together. That's where I get the negative 5. And here, negative 2 times negative 3 is a positive 6. So that's a factor. Set each one equal to 0. So now that's factored. Either this could be equal to 0, and then 0 times anything is 0, or this could be equal to 0, and 0 times anything is 0. So now we have to figure out what makes these two 0. And now I solve. So here I have to add 2 to both sides. So x is equal to 2. Here I have to add 3 to both sides. So x is equal to 3. So again, if I were to plot this on a coordinate grid, here's where x is 2. Here's where x is 3. Somehow there is a parabola that goes, well, it's not going to be upside down, this ribbon, that goes someplace through it like that. So here, my first step before I do anything else is set this equal to 0. So I have to first add over my 12. So set it equal to 0. I'm going to pause the video. So pause the video and try to factor and solve yourself. You should have gotten that x is equal to 3 and the x is equal to 4. So again, factored multiply to get positive 12, add together to get negative 7. So when I'm looking at these, I want you to pause the video and try to do C, D, and E by yourself. Here, if I factor, get x plus 2, x plus 4, solve both of those. So x would be equal to negative 2, negative 4. You might see the pattern here, but it's not always just going to be the opposite of the parentheses. So like here, I have to subtract a 3 over, set that equal to 0 first. Factor, so my outside would be positive 2, inside negative 3. So together, that's where I get this negative 1. These have to multiply to get the negative 3. So again, this is where you should check to make sure it's factored correctly. Now, if I solve this, I have to first add my 3 over, then divide by 2. So here are my two zeros for the second one. Already equal to 0. I can take an x out of both of these. That x is gone. Cannot factor that any further because I just have one x here. And I get 0 and so here again, you want to factor and solve. Now, one thing you always want to set this equal to 0. So just like this. Now here, some of you might be tempted to move that 3x over. You want to try to keep your highest degree, so the x squared, to be positive. So it'd be easier if you move over the 16x and subtract over the 12. Again, first you want to always look to see what do they have in common that you can take out. And if there is, take that out first. So I want you to factor and solve. So this first one you can factor out a 2 and an x. You should get 0, 4. Here when I factor, I should get 3x plus 2, x minus 6. So I have negative 2/3, subtract the 2, divide by 3, and a positive 6. Here I factored out a 2 first. Now what's the difference between this one and this one? Here, this has a variable x with it. This one does not. So I do not have any answer with this 2. So here are still my two answers that I'm solving for x, because here's the variable x that I'm solving for. And I get negative 2 and negative 1. Now these two are kind of going backwards. Here I give you the zeros, and I want you to come up with the equation. So if you want to start backwards from the beginning, you have x is equal to negative 5, x is equal to 1. First you want to get it so it says equal 0. So here I would add over my 5. Here I'm going to subtract over my 1. And now, again, I'm just taking my steps backwards. X plus 5, x minus 1 equals 0. Now I can distribute and solve. So either FOIL method or box method. X times x is x squared. X times negative 1 is negative x. Plus 5x when I have x times 5 and negative 5. So my overall answer, because those two can combine, is x squared plus 4x minus 5 is equal to y, or you can have equal to the function of x. Here when I have x is equal to 0, that's just x by itself. So again, if you can figure out what the pattern is, you can leave, you can solve just like that. So I have x minus 5 is equal to 0. So my answer here is x squared minus 5x. Pause the video and try to do the next one by yourself. You should have gotten x plus 3 for where x is equal to negative 3 and x minus 3 for where x is equal to positive 3. And then I FOIL those out. These two are like terms, they cancel each other out. And there is my final answer. And bing a bada boom. Have a great night.